Welcome students, staff, faculty, parents, and most importantly, veterans to our first ever virtual Veterans Day program. This year looks a little bit different. We'd love to see everybody in the Performing Arts Center watching this in person, but we're unable to this year. My name is Matt Maple. I'm the principal at Sunman-Dearborn Middle School and proud to offer you our first virtual Veterans Day program. Today we'll be honoring the bravery and sacrifices of so many veterans and families within our community. All of you know a brother, a sister, an aunt, an uncle, a family member who has risked their lives to make our lives better. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Miss Anna Black, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the national anthem.
History of Veterans Day. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, an armistice, a break from aggressive military action, was declared between the Allied nations and Germany in the First World War, then known as the Great War. Every year after, November 11th was recognized as Armistice Day and was made a legal federal holiday in the United States in 1938. In the aftermath of World War II and the ongoing struggle of the Cold War, Armistice Day became Veterans Day, a holiday dedicated to American veterans.
The origins of taps, the distinctive bugle melody played at U.S. military funerals and memorials and as a lights-out signal to soldiers at night, dates back to American Civil War. In July 1862, U.S. General Daniel Butterfield and his brigade were camped at Harrison's Landing, Virginia, recuperating after 7 days' battles near Richmond. Dissatisfied with the standard bugle call employed by the Army to indicate to troops it was time to go to sleep, and thinking it should sound more melodious, Butterfield reworked an existing bugle call used to signal the end of the day. After he had his brigade bugler, Private Oliver Wilcox Norton, play it for the men, buglers from other units became interested in the 24-note tune, and it quickly spread throughout the Army and even caught on with the Confederates.
Not long after Butterfield created taps, it was played for the first time at a military funeral for a Union cannoneer killed in action. The man's commanding officer, Captain John Tidball, decided the bugle call would be safer than the traditional firing of the 3 rifle volleys over a soldier's grave, a move which couldn't been confused by a nearby enemy as an attack. As for the name taps, the most likely explanation is that it comes from the fact that prior to Butterfield's bugle call, the lights out call was followed by 3 drum beats dubbed as the drum taps, as well as the taps, and then simply taps. When Butterfield's call replaced the drum beats, soldiers referred to it as taps. Although this was an unofficial moniker, according to taps historian and bugle expert Jari Villanueva, he notes that Butterfield's bugle call was officially known as extinguishing lights in American military manuals until 1891. Since that time, taps has also been a formally recognized part of the U.S. military funerals.
There is something singularly beautiful and appropriate in the music of this wonderful call. Its strains are melancholy, yet full of rest and peace. Its echoes linger in the heart long after its tones have ceased to vibrate in the air. Oliver Wilcox Norton.
SDMS staff and students have collected pictures of their beloved veterans and current military personnel. Our student council has, to the best of our knowledge, placed in these veterans' photographs chronological order. Those who served during peacetime will be included in the slideshow, following or in between wars or major conflicts.
World War I. In late June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was assassinated by Serbian nationalists in Sarajevo, Bosnia. An escalation of threats and mobilization orders followed the incident, which led to the official outbreak of World War I in mid-August of the same year. This caused a conflict between Central Powers consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, and the Allied powers made up of Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy, and Japan.
The Allies were joined by the United States in 1917. The 4 years of the Great War saw unprecedented levels of carnage and destruction due to the grueling trench warfare and the introduction of modern weaponry such as tanks, machine guns, and chemical weapons.
By the time World War I ended in the defeat of the Central Powers in November 1918, more than 9 million soldiers had been killed and more than 21 million were wounded. This hope that this Great War would be the end of all future wars.
Instability created by the reparations of World War I caused the rise of the Third Reich, led by Adolf Hitler in Germany. Hitler's rise to power within the National Socialist Party, later known as the Nazi Party, lit the fuse which allowed Germany to secretly militarize and sign treaties with Italy and Japan. These destructive moves were only the beginning of Axis aggression for the world domination.
Hitler's invasion of Poland in September 1939 drove Great Britain and France to declare war on Germany, marking the beginning of World War II. Over the next 6 years, the conflict would take more lives and destroy more land and property around the globe than any other previous war.
America was brought into this World War II after the Japanese successfully launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, along with many other islands in the South Pacific. Across the nation, President Roosevelt's speech declared that December 7, 1941, a day that will live in infamy. This aggression towards Pearl Harbor and the South Pacific enraged Americans and gave us the motivation to stop the chaos across the globe.
Among the estimated 45 to 60 million people killed were 6 million Jews murdered in the Nazi concentration camps as part of Hitler's diabolical final solution. This is now known as the Holocaust. Other imperfect groups of people, such as gypsies, mental handicapped, homosexual, and prisoners, were also killed in order to perfect Hitler's ideal world. led by Mrs. Brooks, is now going to perform for our veterans.
The Cold War. The Cold War was a standoff between the United States and the USSR. It began shortly after World War II as a result of differences in beliefs of how Europe's nations should be rebuilt in the aftermath of the catastrophic war. The USSR believed that they were entitled to helping the Eastern European nations to rebuild into communist states. The United States believed that all of the nations should rebuild into lands of democracy. Both nations were aware that if they were to go to war, it would result in mutually assured destruction due to the development of nuclear weapons.
Rather than going to war, many smaller countries were sites of satellite wars and conflicts. Two of the most well-known are Vietnam and Korean. These, along with over 80 other uprisings, civil wars, and crises, were the result of either a communist power or democratic power backing a nation in their attempt to govern themselves or defend the citizens of a nation.
Soviets began to noticeably budge with the tearing down of the Berlin Wall being in 1989. The end of the Cold War was brought about with the USSR dissolving into a variety of nations in 1991.
The Korean War was fought between North and South Korea. The United States supported the South Korean and China backed the North Koreans in their communist cause. Initially, the war looked to be lost with the taking of Seoul, South Korea's capital. General Douglas MacArthur led the Southern troops alongside the Americans and regained the capital city. Over 5 million service members were committed to this war. 33,741 soldiers were killed in action.
The Vietnam War began in 1964 and lasted through 1975. American soldiers backed the South Vietnamese in their attempt to defeat the communist Viet Cong of the North. The United States had over 8 million soldiers deployed and 47,424 died in battle. Along with the men killed, 1,500,000 plus were wounded.
For Persian Gulf War, also known as Desert Storm, was a conflict between Iraq and a coalition force of 35 different nations. The goal was to liberate Kuwait, which was bordered and invaded by Iraq. The United States committed over 2 million troops to this war.
The War on Terror. The War on Terror is an ongoing war in the Middle East. This war was triggered by the organized terror attack on the World Trade Center in New York on 9/11/2001. The War on Terror is not limited to the Mideast, but is happening across the globe. This war now affects over 80 countries and has spanned 19 years.
This concludes our Veterans Day program. We would like to thank all veterans for their services. SDMS acknowledges your sacrifices, and from the bottom of our hearts, we cannot thank you enough.
Veterans, we hope that you enjoyed our tribute to you and all of your families throughout this presentation. Most importantly, please understand that we appreciate the sacrifices that you and your families have made to protect us. Students, it's important that you understand today and any day, please thank a veteran. Write them a note, send them a card, or just a verbal thank you is so important. Again, veterans, thank you is never enough, but please accept our sincere thank you from Sunman-Dearborn Middle School.